Welcome to another production of Source Selection Soundbites. These productions foster learning, insight, and the ability to perform. Today's topic is an overview of effective pre-solicitation communication with industry. Today we will discuss the definition of effective communication, its usefulness in the source selection system, and the pre-solicitation communication landscape. Effective communication is a two-way information sharing process which involves one party ending a message that is easily understood by the receiving party. Effective communication generally has 7 parts. This includes clarity, conciseness, consideration, completeness, concreteness, courtesy, and correctness. Effective communication is achieved by 1. Spending time to understand the perspectives and motivations of other parties. In this exercise, time is the key to ensuring that the parties understand one another. More time means more communication. 2. Effectively responding to the other party's concerns, which can only be done when one understands the concern. And 3. Sharing sufficient information to ensure a meeting of the minds and the achievement of desired outcomes. Effective communication is critical to business success as it ensures a mutual understanding, builds commitment between the parties, and promotes cooperation between them. If there is not effective communication between government personnel and industry, there are at least 2 categories of effects: immediate and systemic. The immediate effects include the inability to gain insights from industry, the inability to refine metrics and performance objectives, and the inability to ensure a meeting of the minds. These things lead to higher risk overall. The systemic effects include a reduced level of competition, lower productivity during contract performance, higher prices due to increased risk, bad business deals, and a small industrial base caused by a lack of information. The government does a lot of written communication, but industry has continually clamored for more verbal communication because together they'd yield better results. Written communication has the strength of being permanent and relatively clear, and the material can be widely distributed. It also has the weakness of lack of immediate feedback and the potential for misinterpretations. No matter how well a document is written, there will be gaps in understanding and differing interpretations of language. Verbal communications eliminate the weaknesses of written communications by providing immediate feedback and providing nuance and context, which takes care of most misunderstandings. Verbal communications also add speed and efficiency, the ability to build relationships, and the flexibility to follow the conversation as it unfolds. There are 2 distinct time periods that provide opportunities for communication with vendors before the solicitation is published. One is market surveillance, where a requirement has not been identified, and the goal is to stay abreast of the latest developments in the acquisition space. The one that we will focus on is the pre-solicitation time period right after a requirement is identified, where the goal is to substantiate and refine requirements, understand the market and vendor capabilities, and form an acquisition strategy. FAR 15.201 allows a full range of communication and provides only a few, but necessary restrictions to maintain fairness in the competition. The OFPP myth-busting campaign sought to educate government acquisition professionals by making them more aware that a deeper level of communication is allowed during acquisition planning. They expounded upon and encouraged the use of all of the tools available to the agency, such as one-on-one meeting, industry days, meetings with technical personnel, and early engagement. The campaign to encourage more communication has continued as it is vital to commerce. The President signed the National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, for fiscal year 2016 on November 25, 2015. Section 887 of that NDAA required the FAR Council to issue a new rule encouraging communications between government and industry in the acquisition process. Specifically, Section 887 provided the following guidance. Not later than 180 days after the date of the enactment of this act, the Federal Acquisition Regulatory Council shall prescribe a regulation making clear that agency acquisition personnel are permitted and encouraged to engage in responsible and constructive exchanges with industry, so long as those exchanges are consistent with existing law and regulation and do not promote an unfair competitive advantage to particular firms. The FAR Council stated that, via the implementation of this authority, It sought to continue the conversation initiated by the OFPP memoranda and welcomed any suggestions from the public to further enhance open communication between industry and the federal acquisition community. Several years after proposing the rule and receiving feedback from stakeholders, the Federal Acquisition Regulatory Council released the final rule in December of 2022. The final rule resulted in the current language in FAR 1.102, which states, "The government must not hesitate to communicate with the commercial sector as early as possible in the acquisition cycle to help the government determine the capabilities available in the commercial marketplace." It goes on to say that government acquisition personnel are permitted and encouraged to engage in responsible and constructive exchanges with industry, so long as those exchanges are consistent with existing laws and regulations and do not promote an unfair competitive advantage to particular firms. Contracting officers should note that the rule references market research and communication with industry sections of the FAR. To wrap things up, let's review what we discussed. We discussed the definition of effective communication. Second, the usefulness of effective communication. And third, the current pre-solicitation communication landscape where the government encourages communications that produce fairness, openness, and integrity in our source selections. Thank you for watching another episode of Source Selection Soundbites. For additional information, check out some of the other videos in this series, other productivity partners materials, or our Source Selection Answer app that is available on the Google Play Store and Apple Store. In any event, thanks for watching, and see you next time.